the ice with a little bit of dancing. We got to do the dancing intro.
I would dance, but you don't want to see that. And,
I do, though. It's like,
well,
I was going to say, my little dancing intro is kind of becoming a bit like Ellen without the abuse. And it's a good thing I have you here today because we're going to talk about some legal stuff.
Yes, that's it. Yeah.
Oh.
Well, hopefully I can stop you getting into trouble with your,
I mean, like, it's been a long time
dancing.
coming, so here we are. Anyway, as I was saying, so what we have today is we have Scott with us. He is one of the co-founders of Contract Sent. So, Scott, would you like to introduce yourself and what the hell Contract Sent is?
Oh, that's a good question, and I hate giving the spiel, but I have practiced it recently. So yeah, my name's Scott. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Contract Sent. We are a company that helps small businesses with their really annoying contract problems. Basically, we help them get up and running with templates and AI contract generation, and then help them throughout the contract negotiation process with their customers with a bit of a purpose-built tool that helps them project manage that and then pulls information out of the contracts at the end so that you don't have to sit there and read through a 40-page contract because I hate them.
Yeah. Honestly, I will say, this being in Startup Land, contracts, NDAs, legal documentation in general, it's a minefield when you're not someone who's versed in that.
Yep.
And then, by the nature of startups, they don't have money. So trying to pay big legal firms to do all that paperwork and stuff is a little bit of a problem. So I suppose I'd like to kind of go from where this all started, what kind of gave you the bright idea, and talk to me about where this all began.
As with any good startup idea, it starts at 3 a.m. in the morning when you're working on a problem for someone else's startup, and you're sitting there crying to yourself and thinking, why am I doing this? This is idiocy. So I spent the last kind of 10 years working in other people's startups, and generally I was a head of finance or head of operations, and with that I would normally have the legal team report to me. And we went through multiple kind of growth periods with past startups that I worked for, and all of them were selling B2B, and they would have to negotiate contracts to close deals. And we were selling to customers like Deloitte and Airbus and kind of big enterprise customers. So the contract negotiation part of the sales process was just this long, drawn out, just boring process where you'd get on a phone call with someone and they'd be like, can we change this to a capital T? And I'd be sitting there looking around the room at everyone, and being a head of finance, I know what each person in the room gets paid. So I'm sitting there, and to me, we're paying $1,000 for a meeting. That just is pointless. So I would get really frustrated about this, but no one else in the company wanted to deal with it because, as you know, dealing with contracts, not really that fun. So it was just a pain in my side for a long time. So out of that, I thought, there's a bunch of these small businesses that have to do this pretty manually because they don't want to spend a bunch of money on the tools that are out there in the market. There are a lot of them, but they generally start from $500 or $1,000 a month. So I thought, I could probably go and get something built that I could sell as a low value tool that would solve the main pain points of this. Not enough bells and whistles that I'd be charging anyone $1,000 a month for it, but enough to take some of the pain out of the process. So that's what we've done with Contract Sent. We've built it to start out at $7 a month for businesses, and that gives them access to a bunch of things to get started. And my main goal is to make sure less people in small businesses have mental breakdowns because they're reading over a contract at 3 a.m. in the morning, wondering, can I sign this or will this destroy my business?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, this all sounds shockingly familiar at the moment. So for those who don't know, outside of Goose at the moment, my other job, my actual job is one of the founders of a startup. So this is a land I'm very much learning at the moment, and we're very lucky over there at the moment because we have a wild Damien whose background is corporate law. So every time I need to do something, I just go, Damien, I done something, fix it, make it happen, bye. And he's like, dude, I hate you. But like, I find it very funny because I'm obviously, my background is heavy duty marketing, and you're obviously finance background. We're historically the enemies. You go, you're not spending the money. I go, I've already spent all the money. It's very different kind of mindsets because like I'd be coming from like, I think one of the lessons I learned very early is NDAs. I learned this many years ago under Goose because I think being in the marketing sphere, you become a bit more trusting of people. It's like, oh, we're all friends here. Let's sort each other out. Let's help each other out. And then it's like, sign this. You're like, oh, the fucking, what you want? What? Why am I signing this 30-page document? What am I agreeing to? And then you spend an hour trying to figure out nonsense legal terms that I don't understand. So, what does that mean? And it's not fun.
And I think a lot of it is just people complicating things that don't really need to be that complex. But at the end of the day, you know, we are running businesses. You have to have these legal agreements in place to ensure both sides are looked after in a worst case scenario. And 99% of the time, it is that worst case scenario. The kind of main difficulty that I've found with these things, and you know, like you said, you come from a marketing background, I'm coming from a finance background, so I tend to be the harsh person that looks at the details. But I've worked in companies where we have had deals worth €500,000 that we've got to renew the contract and found out that the CEO never actually had a contract in place, and we were just billing them and they were paying us. Cool. So things like that happen, and it's kind of common, and people, they do get to a point that they trust each other. What I kind of found with the legal process is it comes down to one of two things. Either is something bad going to happen, in which case we need to protect ourselves, the customer needs to protect themselves, or is our company on a trajectory that we are likely to raise money or we'll look for an exit in the future. I learned this kind of in the fun way. I say fun in a very facetious manner. In the fun way, going through an exit with one of the past startups I worked for, and going through that exit and having to go through and run the due diligence process. Ugh. And us being a company that has been bought by this big unicorn company, and them putting a what I saw as a gang of corporate lawyers to sift through everything that we'd ever done, and my CEO saying to me, "Oh, you've got this right, Scott," and having to kind of sit there on calls while they crawled through every single decision that we'd made and asked us, "Why did you make this?" And it's always an interesting process, because the legal side of things, you run this gauntlet of being the Frankenstein monster that says, you know what, we won't agree to change our terms whatsoever. Yeah. And that's a fantastic way to kill a company, because you're trying to grow, so you have to have some leniency on the way through. Yeah. But then you also need to figure out what you should say no to if you're going to go down that route of raising funding, or if you're ever going to have lawyers look at your contracts and they suddenly say, "Oh, you probably shouldn't have agreed to that." So there's that fun middle ground that you have to play with.
Yeah, no, that's actually quite interesting, because I suppose you've got this. Actually, I've got two little tangents here. So the first one is, startups, they're always trying to make sure that they don't get their pants pulled down by investors or big companies looking to swallow them. So having that kind of contract template and I don't know what I shouldn't be asking for half the time. Yep. If somebody was to come to me and go, "I need you to do this," I'm sure, but why? What's going on here? And I think there's that kind of element. But then even on the contract side, I don't know if you saw this one recently, and it was fucking glorious. There was this chap in the States who for about 2 years was sending small invoices to Facebook and Google. Yeah. And I think he racked up like 30,000-40,000. And when they brought him to court, he won. because as far as legal was concerned at that point, it was like, well, you kept paying the invoices without doing your due diligence, so there was no contract here for a service. This is on you.
That's it.
And he's sitting there rubbing his hands, going, "Y'all stupid! Like, here, send an invoice here of €100, send an invoice there of €200, and it all racks up because they were small enough that they were just like stacking over time. And it's just like, yeah, they probably should have had something in place there to make sure that they weren't getting screwed over. So it happens on the small level and on the big players level. It's like,
yeah, definitely
all the time. It's fucking.
I think there's so many super interesting things that can happen, and I think a lot of the things that can happen aren't necessarily coming down to your actual contract.
Sure.
You think you've got a contract signed, and that's fantastic. Let's move forwards. And then what you tend to find is there's all these little tiny fun legal loopholes that customers throw at you that you don't even realize. One of the fun ones that I found out the hard way was often if you are billing a customer, they'll raise a PO and send it to you. And as part of that PO, a lot of businesses will put a nice little small print at the bottom of it saying, if you accept this PO and you bill us against it, you accept our standard terms and conditions, and those overwrite any previous agreement that you have with us. And it's a very common thing to happen. And most people won't pick up on it because a lawyer won't review a PO. It'll just go to the finance team and they'll be, let's send out an invoice. It all sounds kind of nice and innocent until you're dealing with a customer who has standard terms and conditions that say, as part of being our supplier, we own any and all intellectual property that is part of this transaction. Right. So, there's this nice little, did we just give all of our intellectual property to a company for free? Oops.
Yeah.
And, like at the end of the day, it's only going to be some monster that would.
But they exist. I think that's the thing. They do exist. I mean, like, I can talk a little bit about it, but I won't go into detail because it's an ongoing thing. So earlier this year,
is this the Alan scenario again?
No, this is actually something. Fuck that guy! Don't even get me started on that guy. No, this is me and one of the lads actually bought a company in England last year, started this year. And it's still an ongoing legal battle due to some little tweaks in terms and conditions in terms of he failed in one area, we failed in a place in relation to the first part of it, because it's like, we're not paying you because you haven't done your bit. And he's like, well, you owe me the money, and it's all with lawyers and stuff. And this is 6 months of round and round in circles having gone fucking nowhere. So I suppose let's go back to the start here. If I was to say, right, I've signed into Contracts End. I have my new business and I need stuff. So how does this process work from start to finish? Like, I have my new shiny business and I'm going, cool, what do I need? Because I don't know what I need. What do I have? I don't know what I have. And what will I need? And when will I need it? So how does Contracts End help me from day dot? And what's that process kind of look like? Because it's really cheap in comparison to the competitors. And I like that.
And that's always been the goal. So basically, when you come into Contracts End, the main starting point is our template library. With our template library, we've got over 100 templates in there. And they range from a founder's agreement, if you're really just getting started and you've got a couple of co-founders, sales agreements, master service agreements, levels of service agreements, user agreements, a bunch of things. So there's a bunch of those in there. We also provide a bunch of finance templates. Just because I'm a finance person, why not throw them in there?
Makes some sense.
And then from our template library, basically what you can do with those templates, you can download them, play around with them yourself. You can invite a lawyer in to have a look at them. Or if you're an early stage company, one thing that we're starting to do is we have a feature in there saying, find me a lawyer. And effectively, we've curated a list of around 200 lawyers now across different jurisdictions and with experience in different industries.
Mm-hmm.
And the goal is to kind of give you that template to start with, and then provide you with a lawyer that actually understands your industry, knows the small tweaks that you need. Generally, it's not going to be many small tweaks.
Yeah.
So it kind of gives you a good starting point to save massively. You're not going to be paying a lawyer 20 hours to be running up a template that's specific for you. They'll just be doing a few tweaks.
Yeah.
So we'll do that introduction for you. Then that gives you a template to start with. And then effectively that template's saved in your account. With that template, whenever you get to the point that you want to send it out to a customer to start negotiations, Contract Sent will let you send it out. Once you've sent it out, it sits in a project management kind of board, like a Kanban board that's very similar to a sales board, where your legal person or whoever's doing the fund negotiating side of it can move it across the different stages, send it out to get signed. And then the feature that we're just about to release, and this is really getting into the crux of what I was trying to solve, is a very simple one-click button that will pull all of the pertinent data out of that 40, 50-page contract and then save it into properties that are against it. And those properties then will be your easy overview of a contract. You will be able to push those into a HubSpot if you want to have your sales and customer service team have an overview of them. Or you'll be able to dump it out into a CSV so that if you're going through due diligence, you can say, here's a CSV of all of the contracts that we have. These are the start and end dates, the value of them, whether it's assignable, whether we have permission to use their logo, what level of liability, all the kind of pertinent things, just to save a bit of time for you getting stuck in that process. At the end of the day, the kind of problem that I'm trying to solve is contracts are this really boring, long form hold of data, and it's not really useful to have data stuck in a PDF. So we're just trying to get it out and put it in other places.
I like that. I like this because, again, I think, I know myself, I have the attention span of a goldfish. So being able to summarize those kind of 40-page documents is going to be a godsend for me. But even just for founders in general, because I think just even from experience and having done this for many, many years, you kind of I get a sense that there's normally two types of founder. You've got your technical founder and you've got your, I don't know the nice word to call us, the psychotic founders. It's I have an idea, but I can't build shit.
Yeah.
Very rarely do you get the legal founder, because I think there's that kind of barrier. So it's I'm going to run at 100 miles an hour and I'm going to think of nothing to do with legal, and then I'm going to press the button to publish my thing and go, oh shit, okay, we have licensing issues. We have, for our thing, we'd need licensing for data. We'd need, a gaming license. You'd need, and there's this list of stuff that will say, getting into this, and I think this is common for a lot of founders, it's just head down, drive at 100 miles an hour. I'll figure out everything I need to figure out later. And then the legal stuff lands on your table. You go, oh no, what did I do? What have I done? But I think this kind of takes a lot of that off of the shoulders. It's I know I have a template that I can fill in, I suppose, my company specific information. And then as you said, it's that lawyer integration I think is really cool, because I know from experience, again, that trying to find a lawyer who will deal with startups can be difficult, if not expensive.
That's exactly it. And I think it's interesting because I'm trying to solve the problem for business owners, but there's also the other flip side of that is the lawyers have to be involved. At the end of the day, you need to have the confidence that there is a legal professional that has done a final review, said yes, away you go. And I think, we're in a way building a product for them as well. Lawyers these days, it's been very interesting looking at the industry and seeing over the last 12 months how the industry has gone from AI will never replace us to, oh my God, we have to use AI so it doesn't replace us.
Yeah.
And it's been a very, very rapid kind of change in the discourse in the legal industry. And I think they're starting to understand that they do have a very, very important part in the process, but they have to use tools to speed up the way that they do things. Otherwise, people are just going to cut them out of the picture.
The quality and efficiency. Actually, it's a very good point there, even in terms of the AI side, or just again, two pieces here. You've got the lawyers, and I wouldn't have thought of them as part of this. I guess I'd be like, yeah, whatever. I need a lawyer to make sure this is signed off. But I'm sure lawyers as well, the last thing they want to be doing is spending 2 days a week just looking at startup bullshit NDAs or startup bullshit sales things. It's like, because I'm sure that's not exactly where the big chunk of their money and work, but it's high workload for little return. So it probably takes a lot of time out of them as well. But then the AI side is quite interesting because I'm personally of the opinion that AI isn't going to replace jobs. It's a beneficial tool.
Yeah.
Like nobody's going to market the way I can market. I don't know if you've seen the Burger King are glorious at this shit. So last year they did like an AI generated marketing campaign to prove how bad it was. Now it worked in the sense that people saw for what it was and a bit of a tongue-in-cheek laugh, but it was like a burger that had a hand sticking out of it, and do you know these really awful pictures? Like, oh, you tried. It's supposed to be someone holding a burger, but it's a burger. It's a hand burger now and stuff like that. It's like, oh, you got hamburger and hand. I see what happened here. But I'd be interested in getting into that kind of AI side. First of all, your thoughts and opinions on AI, because obviously you're embedding this into your platform as standard. So hit me.
I think the hype around AI is hilarious.
Yeah.
I think it's hilarious because there's a very interesting VC that I follow, and he's like quite an opinion leader, a guy called Thomas Tuguns, and he's always publishing stuff. And there's an article that I really enjoyed of his a couple of years ago, and someone had asked him, what are you investing in at the moment? What's the hype that you're investing in at the moment? And he said that when he thought about how to answer the question, he went back and he looked at his old journals. He said he kept a journal every year. And in his journal, he wrote down the industries that they were going to invest in.
Mm-hmm.
And what he had written down in the past years were what we're seeing as the hype industries. And he said every single one of those industries have now just become normal day to day, to the point that one of the industries he had written in one of his past notebooks was the internet. And the point was like something like AI, it's definitely an amazing tool, but it is a tool that we will just become a day-to-day use, and we'll figure out how to integrate it with our work. It'll make us more efficient. It will definitely replace some jobs, but it'll be up to industries and people within industries of how do we adopt this to make us more efficient.
Yes.
And especially when you look at something like legal, as you said before, you look at the side of the lawyer, and it is incredibly inefficient. And you see a lot of things that lawyers do is, even though it has to be done, when you look at it from a business owner perspective and someone that's paying a lawyer like hourly or something, you think to yourself, that's just incredibly inefficient. Like it's just an absolute waste of time. But it kind of has to be done, so you pay through the nose for it. And what I'm starting to see from a lawyer perspective is a lot of them are picking up AI as definitely a tool that will help. But I think the legal industry is quite an interesting one from a AI perspective, because it's a tool that's been picked up, but there is the concept in the legal industry that at the end of the day, someone has to be liable for a legal
and an AI can't be legally liable.
Yeah, AI can't be legally liable. So it is, and I think that it's very similar for the finance industry as well. There's this level of liability that we can use AI to a point that it will replace a lot of the manual work, but we have to have stops and checks along the way where a human checks in. And I think when it comes to something like sales contract negotiation, it is like it's quite an interesting use case because you can feed as much rational information into an AI as you can. But if you have a customer come along that is, for some reason, wildly strategically important to you, or it's just a customer that you love, like a CEO I used to work for had an opportunity to bring on Lego as a customer. And it was a very
you have my full attention when you mentioned Lego. Hold on just 1 second.
Yeah. No.
Going on an adventure. Okay. We have many Legos up inside this house.
I love it.
I'm very much a...
Believe it or not, I have built that Lego as a leadership exercise on a leadership offsite, that exact one.
I'd say I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I need to get a display case because I have about 25 plus Lego things in this house. So anyway, as you were, I got distracted. I heard a happy word.
So we had the opportunity to work with Lego, and the founder was like, "We will bend the rules to bring on Lego as a customer," because he was just passionate about it. And there's kind of use cases like that if you told this to a rational AI, they would say, "This is irrational. Why are you doing it?" Yeah. At one of my past companies, we had Google as a customer, and it was a very, very small deal, but they insisted that we agreed to unlimited liability, which we would never do, and like to the point that we had to raise it to the board of directors of $1 billion company to get approval to accept unlimited liability. The deal was worth like $5,000 a year.
Yeah,
but it was Google, so all rationality said don't do it. But we got to say Google was a customer, and we got to use that in marketing. Boom. Yeah. So it's kind of things like that there needs to be a human component in it. If you're going to negotiate something, there's always some kind of irrational part of it. Yeah. And that's part of doing business. Yeah.
It's weird. I don't know, like you said there's a few interesting things there. So I think where I'd like to start, like the buzzword industries is something it's pissed me off for a while. It really has. It's like AI makes sense. Like I'm a fan of AI. I don't think it's going to take over the world. I do think we need to have some regulations around AI because I have heard, certain speakers who've been heavily involved in the creation of AI going, bro, like, let's be careful. But in terms of your mate that you were saying about the investment side, just like, let's look at like some buzzword bingo. We have AI, which is the last 18 months. Before that, if you said you worked in cryptocurrency and you had a crypto product, you were the investment dude. Where are all those companies now? Go fuck yourself, you money laundering.
Sorry to interrupt. Do you own an NFT?
Yes. Now, however, I didn't pay for it. It's actually a Goosed football jersey that I have it for the metaverse. Brenny, who's an old mate of mine, went fucking around and finding out in the NFT space, and he made us football jerseys and also create the NFTs of them.
Fantastic.
So that's the NFT I own. I didn't go buy any of the crazy monkeys or anything like that. But yeah, like 18 months ago, it was NFTs. Before that, it was crypto bros. Before that, it was everything AR. Before that, it was VR. VR has been around since the 70s. I don't know when around 2008 it became a thing again. Do you know what I mean? It's like, what's currently trendy? And I have a couple of guesses of what's going to be trendy next, but I'm going to keep those to myself for later. 3D printing. We're waiting on the next 3D printing cycle because that hasn't been around in about 15 years.
I got very close to buying a 3D printer a while ago. Interesting.
Well worth it. I bought the Creality 3D Neo. I think it was 450 quid, desktop model. Very, very handy. I've made some stupid one. Rolling away again.
It's a show and tell event today.
And nobody can see my bed where I keep all my random nonsense. This is my Squirtle. But you know what I mean? Like 3D printing, it's kind of one of those ones that I remember when I was in college. I was in college in 2008, 2009, starting in 2008, and 3D printing was the buzz product at the time. We're probably going back into that cycle next. Do you know what I mean? So I find that a lot of these industries, it's like, what's the current buzzword? For AI, it's both a help and a hindrance at the moment. On one side, if you were saying I'm an AI business, you're probably more investable. But then it's also cutting through the bullshit noise of, well, you're just an actual, like, your thing is actual artificial intelligence rather than a lot of other products are glorified like language learning models and just spitting back nonsense, which all well and good, but that's language learning, not artificial intelligence as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and it's the hype cycle. There's something to it, and I think understanding how to get on the hype cycle and ride it is all part of being a founder.
Yeah.
And I think it's. I think the main part of the hype cycle. I always like to go back to that typical adoption curve that they always show for startup companies, where when you're early on, you get those early adopters that are willing to try your product, even if it's full of bugs, just because it might give them some kind of competitive advantage. I think when you watch the hype cycles are very much attached to that kind of adoption cycle.
Yes.
And if you are able to harness the hype cycle and get in early enough, it helps you definitely drive the early adoption of your product. It helps get people on board and deal with all the bugs because you do have AI in your product. And I think a lot of startups grab onto that. But the faster and harder the hype cycles go, which the AI hype cycle is very fast and hard at the moment, the faster and harder you see startups appear and disappear.
Yeah. It is. You can definitely see that kind of trend. Like, we have been discussing ourselves about putting AI into our thing just to say that it's there. It's like, for example, if you have a league that has an uneven number of teams and you need to have an even number of teams for match cycles, so we could put in an artificial intelligence team into your league. It's like, cool. Does that suddenly make us like super investable? It's like, are we doing that for the right reasons, or is it just for the potential of will someone give us money for that? And that's the conversations that need to come. So I don't know. AI is one of those ones that it makes sense. I'm really excited about what's happening in the space. You're seeing some like true artificial intelligences. Like yours makes sense. But I think there's so many of them that I've seen over the last, especially year, which are just input-output products. It's like, you're not artificial intelligence. You're kind of a search engine aggregator kind of thing. It's like, is that intelligent? I don't know. Maybe I'm just becoming a bitter old man, and I don't even feel like I'm that old. But
yeah,
I've become bitter.
That's fine. There's nothing wrong with being bitter. I like it.
Well, you come from a finance background. That's your nature. No is first. Yes is later.
I heard a very good thing about this the other day, and you might like this, coming from a marketing background. There was someone speaking that I heard. I think someone always says that line when they saw something on Instagram, but they don't want to admit that it was on Instagram. The thing that they said was, the normal cycle of ideas is creative people come up with ideas, and then they have to get finance people and legal people to look at them and say, that's not a great idea. But those are the boring people. And the idea should be that whenever finance and legal people come up with ideas like, we need to downsize the company, or this is too risky, or things like that, they should have to get input from the creative people. And the creative people are like, well, if you do that, this will happen and it will have bad effects. So the opposite should be true. And finance people and legal people should have to run their ideas past creative people.
It makes a lot of sense, because I'm going to use a Man United logic here, and this is how you know this is this is the space I'm just watching. It's like you see Ineos, who've bought out, obviously, minor shareholder but running order of the football club, so they've gotten downsized by 250 staff. Now, that's been a purely financial decision, but they haven't taken emotional sides into that, because it's like, cool, you just fired the manager and had to pay him off 17 million.
Yeah.
So did it really matter that you fired 200 people to cost cut when that was the tea lady and the guy who drives the bus? It's like, you haven't looked at the emotional input, you haven't looked at the burnout factor. Like, I think the marketing people, if you were to say, look, we're going to fire 200 people, it's like, and who the fuck is going to do the work? It's like, am I going to have to do twice as much? I'm already tired.
Yeah.
It's like, you're going to compress creativity, but I like that idea, because I definitely find in every company I've ever worked in, I'll be sitting in the corner, the nutty professor going, what if we do this? And I'm like, dude, you can't do that. It's like, I remember I was working in Carphone Warehouse years ago, and I had this idea, and it made sense to me, and then they were like, yeah, that'll get us sued. It was around like prepay phones at Christmas, so you'd have your entry level 100, 150 euro phones. Now, they were insurable for 23 euro a year. So I was like, right, if we were to do a bundle of 200 euros, like, here's your phone insurance case. It's like, yeah, but they have to, basically, people need to agree to the insurance as a product on its own entity, and you can't just bundle it all together, because insurance needs to be, this, that, and the other. I was like, but I was just thinking of commission and getting paid. And they're like, yeah, but unless we said insurance is part of this, it's optional, you don't have to take it, here's the price without the insurance. I was like, yeah, but now you're just going to ruin my price point and ruin my commission options. So I kind of had to understand that. I was like 24 having that conversation. It was just the legal dude going, John, think about this. And no.
Oh, I love it. But I think experiences like that kind of get to the crux of what AI is going to be good at and what it's not going to be good at. And I think this is like very much what I am starting to understand with Contract Scent and the different parties that are involved in negotiating contracts, is you can feed information into a AI to be a fantastic lawyer, or be a fantastic finance person, or to do bits of marketing.
Sure.
Obviously, maybe not the creative bits or the understanding of the market bits, but the actual creation of a business and the magic of a business and creating value for a customer comes when you glue all those things together.
Yeah.
And you can only glue all those things together if there's humans doing the gluing, in a room, like throwing ideas out at each other and seeing what sticks, and then giving input. So the finance guy isn't the one running things, and the marketing guy isn't the one just going off and doing whatever he wants. It's the finding the balance in between that actually provides value for a customer. And I think when people go through and do things like negotiating contracts, there's a bunch of input there from not just legal people, but what can we agree to financially in terms of how we bill people? What does our product do in terms of how does our product use the customer's data? What does marketing want from this? Can we use their logo or things like that? What are we willing to agree pricing wise from a sales point of view? And there's so many inputs that to just say this one bot that's trained as a lawyer can decide on what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And the problem that I see with people saying AI would replace us is I always want to say, have you ever worked in a startup, in a tech company? Do you have any idea how messy things are in the back? Like, our product changes on a daily basis, and those changes need to be reflected in what we agree with in the customer.
It's like there's so much, but it's even for big companies. Like, I've worked with places that it's like, yeah, you can use your ChatGPT, but like, if you're actually going to spit that out as your marketing plan, best of luck, it's not going to work, because there's no out of the box thinking of going. Like, I was working with a brand recently. I won't say the name because I won't. And they were doing a Korean range at the time. So we were like, do you know what we could possibly do? Go to like the Korean the Chinese markets and do a pop-up stall and basically give away the product and see if anybody cops it. But like an AI tool isn't going to come up with that random ass PR opportunity.
Yeah.
Or like Doritos a couple of months ago when they flew a blimp over Dublin city centre and went, "Hi, we are flaming hot, and here's our giant hot air balloon." I thought that was genius. But like an AI isn't going to come up with those kind of mad things. Anyway, I need to back on track here. I've had too much caffeine for 11 o'clock in the morning. Where was I said? So, like, let's say right now, where are we at with contracts right now in terms of how we're getting on as a business? We're obviously in startup land here. Where are we now? Where are we planning on being in like a year and 5 years? Give me the 5-year roadmap, Scott.
5-year roadmap. Are you looking to invest?
I have no money, so no.
So at the moment we've brought on our first customers and we're starting to now dial in the product into what our customers really want and really need. So with that, we've gotten to a point now product-wise that we're starting to put a bit of polish on our product, starting to buff out the kind of original bugs, which is nice. And it's always good to get to this point when you've started to get your first customers on board and you start to realize that 80% of the features that you put your blood, sweat, and tears into, no one really cares about.
Yep.
And it's only that 20%.
My notebook over the last 24 hours or something.
maybe. And it's just that 20% that is actually working. So then it's, the next phase is to build out that 20%, make it a bit more polished, bring on more customers. I'm really starting to move into the go-to-market phase now, which is interesting for me, as you can imagine, coming from a finance and legal background. My personality is not really a sales personality. So learning how to sell to customers is fun for me.
Yeah.
But we're definitely moving into that go-to-market now. The idea is to move up to probably in the next 6 months, move up to around about 10,000 in ARR, and then to probably bring on a round of funding and really accelerate that a bit more.
Very nice.
My 5-year plan is actually
take over the world,
but it's a bit different in what other software in the legal space is looking to do. In my mind, I want to build out the product to be a lot more of a collaborative product to allow founders and legal people to work together in a much better way. And with that, we will have the AI features, but it's really looking to double down on building out a community of legal people and giving them a tool as well as founders a tool where they can work together and work much more efficiently. One thing that I've seen from a legal industry perspective is there's this growing trend of legal people transitioning into fractional legal jobs, building out their own legal practices where they're a fractional legal person for 20, 30 different companies. And I find that there's a lot of a big kind of social factor in there that they are looking for customers. Founders are looking for legal people that have specific knowledge in their industry, whether it be software as a service industry or whether it be tech or finance or whatever. And it's about building a product that will allow those two to find each other and then work together. So the kind of core thing that we're doing with that is using our template library to, the next kind of iteration of our product will be using our template library to build out a much more of a social hub to allow lawyers to put their own templates in there to showcase themselves and allow founders to be able to use that as a place to search and filter and find a lawyer who is appropriate for them.
Yeah.
And then effectively then to bring those two together on our platform and allow them to then manage the contracts within our platform.
This is fun. Yeah, this is good.
Yeah.
So basically it's like we're using AI to make jobs, not break jobs.
That's the core, and to try and speed
There's
it
your
up.
tagline now.
Do I have to pay for that?
We have no contract, shit. So no.
So that's the look at kind of a 3-year process, and then I have even a further dream further down the road. I have a mantra in my mind that no matter what you do in business, the only true representation of what your customer is going to pay you and give you is your signed contract. It's your source of truth as information. So the idea that we're building this piece of software that allows you to pull that source of truth information out of PDFs and put it into properties and things like that, then allows us to kind of build out into the space, whether it's through integrations or through our own products, data sources for finance, forecasting software, data sources for due diligence software for investors. So, I have this vision that, is a small business, you start on our platform, you have a lawyer, you negotiate all your contracts, you get to the point that you want to raise investment, and your investor says, can we do due diligence? And you invite the investor to Contract Sent as a version of a user that they can view all of your signed contracts, and they can view all of the verified data that's been pulled out of those contracts, and that's your due diligence data room.
That's handy. Yeah, that's really handy because, as I've said 100 times, legal ain't my background, legal ain't my knowledge, and you could get me a parking ticket and I still would struggle. I have to go where do I know? Please, just someone else do it. Someone else take care of it. And if I have to think of as little of it as possible, and I don't even think startups. I think small business owners who feel like they're paying out with the nose for kind of bigger services than they need. Like I know my own family, they do wholesale jewelry, and they're, I can share the secret. There's no money in jewelry. There just isn't. But there's a lot of legal stuff around, insurance and values and transport and this, that, and the other. So something like that for kind of small to medium businesses as well, it can take a lot of time and bullshit off their table of the legal rigmarole. It's like, cool, connect up with a lawyer here. Now that that lawyer knows that they're not going to be drawing up 800 contracts for you, that it's going to be a cheaper service. It gives time back to the lawyer, so there's a better, happier relationship between everybody. And I don't really see any downsides here. It means lawyers have more time back in their pocket to do, bigger jobs. I don't know, getting people signed off with the houses, because we all know that's a painfully slow process. But guess what? If you're not getting NDA sorted from me, you might have time to do that job. And even for the small businesses, you said, those prices can be 500 to €1,000. What is that, monthly?
Monthly, yep. Monthly.
Jesus Christ! And you're getting it down to what, about 10 or 20?
Yeah, that's it. That's the aim. And this
is logical.
Yeah, and that's the aim. And at the end of the day, if you're not paying for software to do it, you're probably doing it manually somewhere along the line, which means you're paying a salary to do it. So I feel like we get caught in this trap sometimes of I'm not paying €500 a month or €1,000 a month for a piece of software, therefore I'm not paying, so it's free. But it actually means there's a bunch of manual work, which in a way you probably have that headcount anyway, but you want to be able to free up that headcount to do stuff in other places.
Do other jobs, to do valuable. Not that this work ain't, I don't know, that kind of work ain't valuable, but it's, as you said, it's time consuming for the return that you're going to get from those kind of smaller businesses, when you could be dealing with their property stuff or their actual financial stuff, rather than, I need a sales contract for Bob down the road who wants to buy 3 of these. Ugh.
Yeah, that's it. And there's a lot of fun things in there as well. Always my fun thing as a boring finance and legal person is seeing the how can I say it in a polite way?
Don't.
Seeing the creative ways that salespeople bastardize sales contracts
Yeah.
before sending them out with no permission whatsoever.
Yeah.
And then it comes across my plate to sign it, and I'm like, "Did you make changes to our template?" Oh yeah, I just made some changes. Just it's okay. And I look at them, and I'm like, it's not okay.
Yeah.
You sent this to the customer, and I'm like, yeah, the customer's fine with it. I'm like, well, I'm not.
It's like, of course they are. Now you have to go back and look like the. Yeah. Yeah. As a
Such a
finance
scandal.
guy, you just love saying no.
No, I actually hate it, and
Hey,
I,
that's
I
it though.
yeah, I think, but at the end of the day, finance is a function in business that it can save money, but it's not making money.
Sure.
So to have some, high and mighty finance person who just like relishes saying no to opportunities, I think is just an utter nightmare for businesses.
Mm.
You should have a finance person who is doing everything in their common sense, at least, to say yes. Not saying yes to everything because you'll go bankrupt immediately. But
If it's a no, it's a no, but.
yeah, it's a
Yeah.
no but. And it's, the finance person should be there to ensure things don't go off the rails. But at the end of the day, especially if you're a high growth tech company that you're looking to grow 100% year on year, I think one of the worst things that you can have is either a finance or a legal person that is extremely risk averse, because it's going to just hamstring your entire business.
Yeah.
They should be the ones saying, these are the repercussions of making this decision. Or if you make this decision, you will go out of business almost immediately. But I think the thing that I've learned over the years working in finance and legal is 99% of things can be fixed later down the road.
Yeah.
It's not fun to fix them, but the goal of a business is to get later down the road. And if you try and play it by the book all the time in the early years of the business,
Not happening.
You're probably just going to go out of business.
Yeah. This makes sense. Right. So let's before we wrap, is there anything we have not talked about today that we should? Is there anything on contract sent that you feel that we need to say or mention now? Now is your time, or forever hold your judgment.
No, I do have one question for you.
Oh God. The script is being flipped. I don't like it. Go for it.
It is. Why Squirtle?
I love Pokemon.
But specifically from the starter Pokemon, Charmander is so much better.
I also have him over there, but he was further back in the box.
Okay.
I have all the 4, and I have the Pikachu is painted. Not that everybody here actually needs to know this, but my whole right leg is all Pokemon tattoos.
Interesting.
I am a child.
Well,
and it also is like a party piece. So, well, that's not actually. This is not positive. But anyway, I'm going to tell this story, and then we're gone. So myself and Jimmy went to one of these functions not so long ago, and we were talking to these lads from, I think they were from Estonia. They were in the gaming space. We were talking about games. So obviously, Pokemon came up, and Pal Worlds came up, and how it was a ripoff. And they're like, I don't know anybody who's that obsessed with Pokemon. I was like, bro, I have Pokemon like all drawn all over my leg. He was like, no, you fucking don't. Jimmy went to the bathroom. When he came back out, I was there with my pants around my knee, showing these Estonian lads just in the middle of the dance floor in the nightclub in Dublin, being like, watch, there's the Pikachu, there's the Charizard. And Jerry was like, bro, I left you alone for 5 minutes. I was like, yeah, this is why I need an adult. But yeah.
Well, at least now I know exactly what to get you for Christmas. You remember those zip-off pants that you can zip the bottom off and it would be shorts?
Full-on party boy.
Yep.
Oh, perfect. Right. If anybody is looking for you, Contract Sent, looking to get on board, where are we going? What?
So there's 2 things you can do. Either you can find me at contractsent.com, sign up, and you will get a flurry of attention from me because I love people that sign up to my product. Or just approach me on the streets in Dublin. maybe challenge me to a fight. Just general friendly things like that.
Yeah, I mean, you are in the city centre, Dublin, so you won't be short of a few fights. Oh Lord. Right. So basically, contractsent.com. If you're basically in the market for contracts, NDAs, legal support, if you've been looking for lawyers and you're in Startup Blend and you just need somewhere to go, contractsent.com. €7 a month, you said?
$7 US, which is less than €7. So,
Nice.
there you go.
So we're talking about €6 a month, guys.
Yeah, that's it.
For about 100 odd contract templates. Yeah, I mean, like, I'm unofficially a customer, so I have a login. I do have a login, so I would actually highly recommend anybody who is looking at this kind of stuff. I mean, worst case scenario, it's £6 a month rather than €200 for a solicitor's letter. So it's well worth the look. It's well worth the review. And even if you only get one contract out of it, that has still saved you a shitload of money. So do the thing.
That's it. And even if you don't sign up, book a demo, have a chat with me. I'm reasonably friendly.
Most of the time.
Most of the time.
But no, like, I'm really excited about, like, to be fair, you've been in the same kind of circles over the last couple of months. I'm really excited to see what's happening in the kind of Irish startup sector.
Yeah, definitely.
And I definitely think that you're in this nice position of everybody who's in those rooms probably needs your help. Do you know what I mean? You're selling to everybody else that's in those rooms and in those circles. So it's a very logical product, and I'm very excited to see where you're going to go over the next couple of months and year. So we're going to have to do a catch up in about a year's time and see if you have started this taking over the world stuff.
A year's time?
I mean, we can make it longer if you want.
You must not like me at all.
No, we'll go for pints ourselves. Like, that's beside the point. But in terms of this,
fantastic. It was a pleasure. Really enjoyed it.
Fantastic. Scott, it's been a delight. And from our side, we are obviously on every single goddamn social media platform on the planet, apart from that one, the artist formerly known as Twitter. We don't like that place. So we are Goosed.ie on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. We are also on TikTok. That is Marty at Goosed, because he is the face of our TikTok. And then I'm obviously the face of the YouTube. So you find us Goosed.ie on YouTube. And we're also on Spotify and anywhere good that you get a podcast, because there's some of them that, they're not good. So we're not there. But anyway, on that note, good day, good morning, good night, goodbye, good evening. I don't know, whenever the hell you're listening to podcasts. It has been a pleasure, and we are out the gap for today. Thank you very much.